We saw what happened at 60 metres. Let's see what happens at 40. Archers, loose!
Nice.
Oh! Hi, it's Todd here from Arrows vs Armour 3, and we have got new arrows, new armour, and loads of archers. Our previous films looked at military archery in the early 15th century, shooting these short bodkin heads at fully armoured men from around the time of the Battle of Agincourt. But we haven't looked at later time periods at all, or different kinds of armour, like this brigandine here. And there's lots of evidence for these steel barbed heads. The other thing, of course, is that archers, they didn't shoot singly, they shot in groups. So we are going to look at all of these things today. And to make sure this gets done right, we've assembled the team again. So we have warbow archer Joe Gibbs from Gibbs Archery. We have master arrowsmith Will Sherman from Medieval Arrows. Our arms and armour historian Dr. Toby Capwell, and myself, Todd from Todd's Workshop.
Previously on Arrows vs. Armour, we've been exploring the early 15th century and the armor of knights, noblemen very specifically, the high-end equipment. Now we're moving forward in time to around 1450, towards the end of the 100 Years' War, and really getting towards the beginning of the Wars of the Roses. So this is typical equipment in so many ways. With the brigandine, sallet and bever, they're worn by everybody. Sometimes knights, but foot soldiers, crossbowmen, archers, artillery teams, handgunners. It's really as close as we can get with one figure to typical. There's lots and lots of people dressed like this on the battlefields of the late Middle Ages.
The other big change for this film is more archers. And more archers will give us a more representative group of bow power and of skill. So we're no longer just looking at one exceptional individual. And Joe, you brought some friends?
Yeah, so I brought 6 friends, all good warbow archers, and they're shooting bows from 120 to 160 pounds.
Fabulous. So that's going to give us 7 archers. So 7 times as many arrows, 7 times as many weird, chaotic, chance outcomes. The very essence of mass bow shooting. But then also this is going to allow us to get more strikes at longer ranges. And by doing that, we can see how arrows and armour interact at a greater distance. So Will, we've changed the arrows as well. What's going on?
So we know from artwork and from finds that in the 15th century, they started using these Type 16s a lot. And we're moving towards these lighter, faster, hardened steel barbed heads. We haven't ever tested these before. We know they were the predominant type in that time period. We need to see what they do against our new armour.
Great. All change. In Arrows vs Armour 1, Joe Gibbs shot his 160-pound longbow using fully authentic arrows, tipped with iron, short bodkins like this. Every single shot that landed on the breastplate glanced away.
Then, in Arrows vs. Armour 2, we built on that. We added the helmet with this fabulous glancing visor. We had shoulder plates, we had arm plates, getting closer to the complete equipment of the knight of the early 15th century. And in general, the plate armor did its job. This looks brutal, but it saved the guy inside. Elsewhere, between the gaps, some of the mail can stop the arrows, some of it can't. The gaps remain vulnerable.
Because of these tests, we're beginning to understand a lot more about how arrows and armour interact. But before we start shooting these, at this, we need to understand a bit more about the armour.
We've looked at knights and high-end armor. We want to look at what's more typical for more of the army, the common soldiers. What we've come up with is decent infantry armor that represents as much of the military spectrum as possible. They might be swordsmen, they might be crossbowmen, archers, artillerymen, handgunners, and men-at-arms too. As wide a spectrum as possible so the results that we get have the widest possible relevance. The basic body underneath is all modeled in archery foam. Legs, torso, arms, everything.
With a little bit of movement. He's deliberately not been hard fixed. That's why he moves around.
Noticeably, he's not got armor on his legs. That's actually really common. You can see images of guys who have good armor on their top half, fairly complete armor above the waist, and then no leg armor. For infantry service, if there's something you've got to ditch for mobility or comfort, the leg armor is the first thing that seems to often go. And he's got to be wearing all the layers that a real soldier would be wearing, whether or not we think they will stop arrows. The basic undergarments are the woolen hosen on his legs. He's then got just an ordinary linen shirt under there, and then the arming doublet made by Chrissy Carney here in the UK. That gives you a bit of padding, a bit of a protective layer, but it's mainly a foundation garment for the rest of the armor. Over the arming doublet, we then wear a full mail coat or haubergeon, long-sleeved, coming down below the groin. It's not going to stop arrows by itself, but it stops laceration, fragmentation, all kinds of randomness on the battlefield, and just taking care of the gaps. Having a covering of that fabulous metal fabric is never a bad thing. He's also got a mail collar. The collar itself is a much denser weave than the rest of the mail. Made for us here by Phil Parks, great English mail maker. It's a 6-in-1 weave rather than 4-in-1, so it's tight, it's dense. If anything gets through the plate armor, that will, I think, stop arrows. But you can't make all of your mail out of that because it's so heavy, so you put it in key areas. Then you've got the body armor, not a solid breast and back plate, the brigandine. They seem to be a great balance of good comfort, good mobility, and within that, as much protection as you can get. And these are made out of much smaller plates that are riveted to a fabric cover. So it's got some flex, it's got more articulation, and they have to be self-operable. They don't have servants to come and do things for them all the time. So you've got to be able to put this on and leave it on.
And this particular one is made by Armour Services Historical in the UK, ASH, based on a piece from the Royal Armouries. They did a test in the early 1980s on one of the plates, and it showed that one side of the plate was carburized. It was hardened, and the other was left soft. So we've done the same with these 1.2mm mild steel plates. One side has been hardened.
This is an incredibly common form of body armor in the mid-15th century. Everybody from noblemen and knights all the way down to common foot soldiers is wearing them. And then he's got pretty standard plate armor for his shoulders. The arms are in a simple 3-piece construction. You have a single elbow plate enclosing lower arms and upper arms. But finally, we have a really nice sallet and bever made specially for the film by Francois L'Archevêque in Canada. Francois has made this sallet as a solid 1-piece raised skull. It's not welded. It's got great variable thickness, very thick and heavy in the front, but rapidly decreasing in thickness at the sides for weight efficiency. The sallet is copied from one of the earliest surviving examples at the Musée de l'Armée in Paris. It's a French style, Western European, and crucially early. We're in 1450. That's fairly early on in the history of the sallet typology. The early date of this particular one is really obvious if we open up the visor, and we see it's got this curved, arched face opening. It still looks just like an early 15th century bassinet, like the ones we used in the previous film. So that's perfect for where we are in time. You'll notice also that the visor only protects you up to the top half of your face. So if you want your whole head to be enclosed in plate, you need to wear it with a bever. This is all made out of mild steel because, again, we've established that that's a good analog for medieval wrought iron, typical for common soldiers. The knights would probably start having more hardened and tempered carbon steel armor, but for everybody else, it's still wrought iron. And just to complete this thing, he's got to have weapons. He's got his sidearms, dagger, and arming sword, and he's got a staff weapon. We want to have the weapons there because it's part of the environment, it's part of the situation. And as we know from previous films, weird things can happen and we want to allow for that. And what we end up with at the end of all that is the complete armor and equipment of a typical mid-15th century infantryman. So our target represents an armored infantryman. We've got 7 longbowmen shooting at him. Now we have to decide what arrowheads we're using.
So we're changing the arrow almost completely, this end anyway. We went previously from a Type 9, which is a bodkin, which is made of iron and it's quite big. And we've changed that to one of these, which is a Type 16. We've got one of these on a military arrow from the 1430s probably, the Westminster Abbey arrow. I mean, you can see the difference here. We're not talking about a long, heavy iron head. It's a very short, very compact warhead. And most importantly, these have an iron socket still, as before, but now we've replaced a big, heavy lump of iron on the top with a very small, very light, hardenable steel cutting edge. That can be very sharp, it can be very hard. That will behave in a completely different way, we think, to the armour that we're going to be shooting it at.
And it's a lot lighter.
Yeah, so in the first two films, we were looking at ash arrows, and they were the same size dimensionally, but they came in at about 80 grams. These ones are about 50 grams. They're going to move out of the bow a lot quicker. That will change how it interacts with the armour.
In the earlier films, we had already been puzzling over this whole business of steeled heads.
Yep.
And we were looking at the short bodkins and thinking, what do they mean? Does that mean they're putting a steel point on it? Is it
Hardening,
case
yeah.
hardened? What's going on there?
But when you're making millions of them, there has to be a quicker, easier way to do it. And by the 1400s, I think steel was about 5 times the price of iron. You can't make the whole head out of steel, that's too expensive. So instead you make very, very tiny pieces of steel to go over the edge. That can be hardened, and that may be what the references were talking about.
And these points have turned up a lot in mid-15th century archaeology.
They're everywhere, yeah. They're in the artwork, they're in the battlefield archaeology, they're in the descriptions.
Yeah, and I can think of a number of depictions, tapestries, and illustrations where you see the archers have got bunches of these at their belt, and these heads are very distinctive.
Yeah, I mean, what we've done actually is we've solved a few of the issues that we had before. You remember that they were breaking off at the neck. By welding these edges on, you've welded the socket shut and you've removed the neck. There is now no weak spot here.
Right.
So the imparted energy should be a lot more on the target.
They're really sharp and
really
light and fast.
Yeah, and these haven't been tested. We don't know what they're going to do. It's going to be quite interesting.
All right. Well, Toby, thank you very much. We found out about the armour, we've found out about the arrows, and now we need to set our man up, get our archers ready, and find out what happens when they shoot him. So we don't know what distance archers generally shot at, but it's often called flat shooting, and you see it in the artwork all the time. The distance is as close as you can get safely, because that's where your arrow has got the maximum power. We've set our man out at 60 metres. Now that's a hard target, but we'd love to see what happens when these arrows strike on it. But don't forget, if they miss our soldier, well, he's got people behind him and beside him.
So we've got our archers ready with their heavy military bows, Type 16 heads. Archers, shoot. All right, archers, shoot.
A headshot?
Yeah, that was a headshot. It also bounced though.
Yeah.
Yeah. Archers, shoot.
Need to go again, don't we?
Archers, shoot.
Again.
It's hard.
It's a long way. It's a long
Well,
way.
that in itself is interesting.
All right, archers, shoot.
Oh!
There was something there.
There's something
Yeah,
on
got
the
a
end
hit
there.
Yep.
Right,
Okay,
let's go look.
can we go look?
Joe, abandon the bow.
So where was that headshot?
Right, what have we got? So we had 3 strikes on our man at 60 metres. So the most obvious one, first of all, just on the side of the visor. We've got one going through the mail there,
One here. Into the
and then
brig.
one just under his arm on the brig. So the first thing, Will, I've got to say is come and have a look at this.
Okay.
That is
wow.
tasty.
Yeah. That's quite an angle, quite an extreme angle,
Yeah.
and it's dug in really hard and it's peeled the steel there.
You can see it biting and pulling metal off.
And how thick is that visor at that point?
It's at least 3 millimeters thick there, and it's cut quite deeply into it, whereas the Type 9 bodkin would have just
Gone
bounced
straight
off.
Yeah.
It would have left barely a mark, the Type 9s. We've seen it before.
Yeah.
Goodness, right,
And
okay.
did this one actually cause any damage, or is it just passing through the armor?
No, it could not have been a luckier shot for him, because that is through his trousers, through 2 layers of mail, very superficial cut.
That's got to be a bit annoying having that dangling out of you, distract you from what's going on.
I mean, you can snap it off, but you've got to
yeah.
stop what you're doing and
Exactly,
focus
yeah.
on that.
What a chance for grandstanding. Break that off, pull it out the back, throw it down, carry on.
Yeah, yeah.
Brilliant.
Cool. Look cool, wouldn't it?
What a pub story.
Yeah, that's true.
So what's really evident here from this arrow is even at 60 metres, it's gone through 2 layers of mail.
Yep.
Mail's not going to protect you from that. And then we have our first strike on the brig, first strike of the day at 60 metres.
Yep.
And then we have just under here a little pierced hole on a brigandine plate. So it's deformed and dented the plate. It's got some little turnbacks coming through, but nothing close to injuring him. It's not hurt him because also he's even got the mail between him and the little turnback bit, so it's not even an annoyance. So
Another good reason to have the mail behind there.
indeed. So actually he's got away scot-free. And then, well, we come to our misses on him. Because of course, he's part of a big army, a body of men.
It's interesting that that headshot is happening in exactly the same place as this headshot. So he probably would have been all right if he's got one of these.
Yeah.
I'm not seeing that many injuries. I mean, it looks like he got shot in the foot.
Is that a foot shot there as well? A pass through the foot?
I see, yeah.
gone
So
straight
both
through,
feet.
yeah.
This poor unfortunate man has lost both feet, so he's got trouble walking. But beyond that, our 4 men here are basically unscathed. After what, 35 arrows, unscathed.
Yep.
40 metres?
Yeah, let's do it.
Right, boys, 40 metres. So we've seen from previous films and from today's film that actually you hit an arrow on a primary defence and the guy will basically be all right. You hit that arrow on a secondary defence and the guy is likely to be injured, like we saw with the male there. He got away with a scratch, but it might not have just been a scratch. So guys, we saw what happened at 60 metres. Let's see what happens at 40. Archers, loose! Nice. Second arrow, archers, loose! Oh! Oh,
Brig stopped it.
yeah, but
But what?
uncomfortable. There was some, did you see the one to the helmet as well?
Yep.
Third arrow, archers, loose! Oh!
More happened.
There was a couple up here, wasn't there? Nice.
Somebody hit the same sort of spot as that first arrow in the brig and it came out.
Fourth arrow, archers, loose! Oh!
What was that? Is that you?
Yeah.
Oh! Oh my goodness.
Wow.
Oh, look at that.
So Joe, that's you, yeah?
Yeah, that's me.
Of course it's you. Right, so let's list them off. So, really, you can't miss that one, can you? So we'll have a look at what the damage is
There's a
there.
glancing blow up here. That's a
Oh,
new
is
one.
there?
Yep.
Another one up there?
Oh,
Yeah.
nice.
We'll inspect that in a minute. That again is rather obvious. Plates overlap, but not by a lot there, so that's interesting. Just snuck in under the brig. Straight into the hip. Bad day for his left leg.
And he took an arrow to the knee.
And he took an arrow to the knee. Of course he
And
did.
it's gone straight through.
Right.
Yeah,
This is.
did that hurt him? Did it go through the mail as
Have a
well?
look. He's stuck a good way through.
Well, let's pop them apart. So first up, that's interesting in its own right, and that bit like heck.
Yeah, again, bodkin would have come straight
Absolutely
off that.
should have been a glance, but it bit in, and it's left the point in there again.
Yeah.
Have a look at that.
Nice.
So that's properly in.
That must be the deepest we've had out of all
Yeah.
3 tests, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yep.
Through sheet.
And it's hitting at an angle.
Yep.
Yeah. Yes.
It's not straight on.
No. That's
It's showing the hardened steel head in action there.
pretty much 45-degree angle.
Yeah.
It looks about 1.5 millimeters on here.
We're seeing a bit of denting here now, but very little.
Yeah.
That's a significant clue to what's going on.
Yeah.
The energy's being used by cutting rather than
Yeah.
hitting. Is the point still sharp?
Still perfectly sharp.
Right.
So that struck around about here. We can't say for sure here because there's no damage on the male because you've got a bit of a gap even though that's sticking through and the male will deflect. However, I have done tests on sort of mannequins with throat protection before, and what I can say is that 110, 120 dual punch here, which is where he received it, the male's going to move in and that is going to be deeply uncomfortable.
Right.
Or possibly worse. So actually, although that hasn't skewered him, that has very much inconvenienced him.
It also is reminding us about the virtues of layered materials. He might be out for now with a concussive throat injury, with the male being pushed into him like that, but he'd probably survive that. And that, again, makes the armor worth wearing. It's pretty deep.
Yeah.
That's a real nice.
But
really
of course,
nice.
Joe, a fabulous shot.
Thank you.
obviously. What's
we
happening
take this
here?
one out?
Yeah.
It's hit the strap.
Yeah, it hasn't done an awful lot.
No,
Is it overlapping here?
just a little bit.
We've cut through the leather strap and we've gone into, we can't really see what's going on there yet. But again, he's not been penetrated at that point.
No,
That one.
it was what, half an inch? It's done nothing. Uncomfortable? Nothing. And you've got the male there and you've got the arming doublet.
Yeah.
He's fine.
He's fine with that one.
So the body armor does its job successfully.
Yep.
Very easy for everybody to say, oh, it'll go straight through the brigandine. So far, it hasn't.
Okay. That one, well, it's clean through the male again and well into the leg. That one, that's nasty.
And then the obvious one, it's gone straight through the other side, isn't it?
Yep, skewered his kneecap.
But
Lovely.
he's not going to carry on walking towards you, is he?
Let's look at the guys behind as well, because we've got 2 more leg shots, we've got some groin shots. You know, so we've taken out, between that volley of 28 arrows, 3 guys in this front line here.
Yeah. Is that another one there that we've missed?
Yep.
That's gone quite deep, isn't it, that one there?
It still bounced out, though.
The brig's done its job again, hasn't it?
Yeah, and that's an important point. We have to keep the scores here. That means that the brigandine up to now has successfully stopped 3 shots.
Yeah.
Yep. So again, no injury off that, we're happy with that.
Right.
But will it at 20 metres?
That's the question, isn't it?
Because we'll get a lot more strikes on then.
A lot
Yeah.
more strikes and obviously a bit more power. So
In which case, 20 metres.
let's do it.
I want to see this.
Yeah, so do I.
Well, 20 metres.
Here we go.
All right, so far, the core armor has done really well. There's a lot of close range shooting going on in the late Middle Ages, more than perhaps a lot of people think. Archers are usually shooting from behind some kind of fortification, or they're shooting from cover, or they're protected by knights who are just giving them the chance to keep shooting when the enemy is really close. So we're now shooting at 20 meters, and let's see if that new style of armor can still stand up. Archers, shoot! Thank you very much.
I think so. Nice.
Come on, guys.
They're bouncing off that brigandine.
Yeah.
Nobody's business.
Yeah.
Archers, shoot!
You really wouldn't want to be there.
No thanks. No.
Okay, third round. Archers, shoot.
Perfect shot. Perfect shot.
Right, let's go and check that out. That is
Oh, yeah.
fantastic.
Oh, look at that.
Well, I think we've got to talk about the most obvious one, haven't we? First of all, thank you for missing the GoPro. But straight in. Straight in.
It's sitting right on the, maybe it hit him in the side of the head here.
Yeah, all right, okay.
He might have had a lucky escape.
It's going to disturb him.
Well, sure, but
So then we got one in the lung plate,
Yep.
which is the biggest, flattest plate on here.
yeah,
Yep,
yeah.
And whose is that, Joe?
that's mine.
Of course it is.
Another one, same sort of height there, but on the edge there.
Yeah. Now that's an interesting one. Okay, that is an interesting one because all the plates in the brigandine overlap except for the lung plates. But what that's done is it's squeezed in right at the edge between plates.
okay.
Fantastic. There's one skewered my sword there, another one in the hip, another one in the other hip.
Through the thumb.
Through the thumb.
Oh, wow, yeah.
That's brilliant.
Coming back to the helmet though, you cannot solve the problem of being able to see out.
If you can see out, something can get in.
And it
that's
did.
true. And you can't get away from that.
I think we've got to get Robin up, the guy who shot this one, to have a look at his handiwork. Robin! And I think he deserves something.
Cheers, guys.
So there we go. What do you make of that?
Pretty pleased with that, to be honest. Being closer, you get to pick your shots a bit more. The first two that we shot, I was aiming for the midriff and hit here and here, but I genuinely thought, right, I want to try and hit it in the head. At 20 meters, it's, you know, more chance to be accurate. So, yeah, I'm pretty pleased with that. I'm not going to lie to you.
Yeah.
Really pleased.
Fantastic. Good advert for you as an archer. I
Well,
think.
yeah, quite.
Okay, hang on. I just want to check something. With a shot like this, it's really important to know what the precise trajectory is. So if we can somehow pull it off him without moving the arrow, it is stuck in him.
Yeah, it's in the foam.
All right, so it's still in the same place. The arrow hasn't moved. It's sitting quite on the side there. If we can I just stick this on my head for a second, see if I can.
Feel free.
No, that's gone through his head.
Wow.
Yeah. That's come in on the side of his eye and it's heading inwards. So it's probably hit him right on the outside of the eye and then carried on to the back of the eye and probably a little bit past that as well. So I was thinking it might have missed him and it might be sitting right on the side of his skull, because you do get accounts of things like that happening, even with heavy cavalry lances. The lance head goes through the sight, but it doesn't hurt the guy inside. But I think that's a kill. I'm disappointed, but congratulations. And I mean, let's keep track of the brigandine score again. 1, 2, 3, 4. That one's new. That's another hit to the lung plate that bounced out. I think we need to be really clear about how deep these have gone and what they've actually done to the wearer.
He is wearing mail under here, but there is a penetration. So something has probably happened to him, and we need to open up, have a look, and see what that is.
Yeah, it looks bad, I admit it, but I'm not sure it's as bad inside as it looks outside. Yeah,
Have a look.
Let's see what's going on inside.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. Any marks on the mail?
Yeah, there is a little cut mark on the link directly behind it.
So it's probably gone in 10 millimeters, maybe less.
Yeah,
3/8 of an inch.
it's not huge.
No. But a sharp impact on a rib, that could be significant. But I would say that is not fatal.
No, totally survivable.
Yeah. Uncomfortable, but not actually a problem.
Look how close the point of impact is to this lower plate.
This secondary plate here has buckled.
Yeah, so there's some energy going there.
And if the energy's going here, the energy's not going into the arrow penetrator.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
So, yeah, brigandine wins again. We can now see the other impact points here again.
Yeah.
In terms of damage to the individual inside, nothing.
For the physical cost of wearing the brigandine, it's doing a very good job, actually. You look at all of the impact points here, you really get a very strong sense of these little plates all supporting each other and dissipating the impact away from that point.
1.2 millimeter steel does not seem like very much, but it's doing everything you could want with a piece of body armor. Fantastic. Right, well, let's do them back up, and then we're going to go for our 7 archers shooting 6 arrows apiece at their own speed, all in one go. And that is something I really want to see.
Yeah.
That'd be really interesting.
Before we do the volley,
Yeah.
there is one more arrowhead that I'd like to test. These are the brazed Type 21B heads. These are contemporary with the brigandine, found at Towton where the brigandines were being used. And I think we should have a look and see what these do. We've only got 3, so Joe, are you up for a
Definitely
little
up for
quick
that.
shoot?
Yep.
So these are hardened steel points and edges again?
Same as the Type 16, but they're brazed rather than welded, and they're wider, flatter. It's a slightly different head design.
Okay.
Let's see what they were doing.
Okay.
All right, Joe, when you're ready, let's see what they do.
Okay.
Oh, so there's the lung plate by the look of
I
that.
went in. Good. Happy with that?
But how deep?
But how deep? Yeah.
Ah,
There's
That
a
head
failure.
broke off.
Yeah, that's a failure. Another one
Again.
in. Yeah.
That-
Very nice.
another lung plate.
Should we go and have a look?
I think we better. Well,
So that one that bounced out, oh, it got stuck in
Down
there.
here, yeah.
And it
Oh, wow,
broke
the head.
off in there.
There you
Oh,
go.
What's
And
that?
it broke off.
Oh, nice.
The penetration is not really,
Much different.
it looks scary, but on the inside he's all right.
Yeah.
the primary defences really are working.
Yep.
None of these arrows, type 9, 16, 21, going to do anything to the main defences. That's what it looks like. Not usually.
As the archer, they shoot the same. There's no difference. I can't tell any difference from the bow end.
No,
if
I
they're
was just
performing
wondering.
roughly the same as a Type 16, and we can assume they are looking at this, but they're faster and easier to make,
Yeah,
you've kind of achieved what your
Yeah.
goal was, haven't you?
yeah.
Quicker, cheaper, easier.
But I think that's really worth stressing again. The plates here are a lot thinner than, the solid breastplates.
Yeah.
But they're still working
Yeah.
because it works in a different way.
Yeah.
To disperse that impact, have these little plates supporting each other, it does just as good a job really in a different way.
Yeah.
'Cause even the highest ranking knights and noblemen very frequently are wearing brigandines too.
Right.
They're feeling comfortable to put away their heavy cuirasses and just go in brigandines very frequently. And, the proof of their worth is there.
Yep, there it is. Fantastic.
Well-
Right, now, Will, are we allowed to do
Oh, all
the
right.
mass
Okay.
shooting?
Let's pump him full of arrows.
Let's
yeah.
do
Right.
it, shall we?
Yeah.
Okay, so we've reached our final round of experiments for the day. And since we're set up to do it, we need to talk about how the archers shoot as a group. And we need to see that happening. And that is where we run up against one of the most prevailing myths as opposed to the realities. There's a hard break here between myth and reality because everybody believes, we've seen it in all the movies, that English archers shoot in volleys. They're told to knock, and then they're told to draw, and they're supposed to sit here with their 150, 160 pound bows for some obvious or not obvious reason, and then someone tells them to let go. Doesn't make any sense. It doesn't work. In a film, it's very dramatic and it builds tension, but it makes precisely no sense at all in the real world. If I'm a commander of archers in reality, then what I'm going to tell them is when to start shooting and maybe when to stop. But between those commands, they do their own thing as individuals. It's a continuous hail of missiles going downrange, and that's what all the chronicles really describe. But it's one thing to say that, it's a totally different thing to actually see it. I want to see what that continuous shooting really looks like. So I think for the final test, that's what we should do. Each of our archers has got 6 arrows. They're all going to shoot at the same time as they really would in battle, and we'll see what that feels like at the other end. All right. Archers, shoot!
Good. This is good. They're actually synchronizing quite. Oh, they're actually synchronizing quite well.
Yeah.
Oh, now we're breaking up on.
Oh.
They're going for the headshot.
Oh! There's only 7 of them, so
Oh.
there would be less synchronization.
Yeah.
If the more of them
Yeah.
are, the more continuous it gets.
And also, as the time frame changes, you know, after a minute or 2 minutes.
Wow.
Is everybody out?
Yep. Well. Oh. This is good. This is good.
Oh. Wow.
Is everybody out?
Well,
All right.
well done. That was fantastic. Really, really good. And there's some cracking shots in there.
Great shots, yeah.
So we have to go and have a look. Well, that is a mess of broken arrows, isn't it? Although
They're
not
not
that
broken.
many broken.
Not compared to last time.
But
look.
Lots of lovely lung plate shots up here.
Yeah.
there's a lot more shots bouncing off. There's another one stuck in
The
here.
back of the hand,
Yeah.
that is definitely a problem.
Secondary shot to the bever.
And the arms are getting
The arms.
chewed up.
Yeah.
So again, they're not penetrating through, they've bounced out, we can see that.
There's lots of arm shots.
Loads
yeah.
up here, yeah.
But his core torso, the primary armour, helmet, bever, brigandine, just fine.
Yep.
The hand, not so good. But that's the only point where the primary armour has failed.
And let's point out, they're shooting at 20 meters. They're choosing where they want the arrows to go now. Any of them could have chosen to shoot him in the legs at this
Yes.
point. They're not trying to do that because we're trying to test the armor.
Yeah.
But in a battle, you know, put some through his legs and just count him out and
Yeah.
move on.
Yeah, because I did notice a lot of those shots, the guys were going for headshots, because, you know, why wouldn't you? But
Yeah.
actually, if you want to drop the guy, put it through his thigh, put it through his hip. And that's all exposed on our guy here. Wow.
So it's a good advertisement for leg armor.
Certainly is.
Yeah.
So summing it up then, the Sallet, we had a single arrow that went straight through the eye slit. Clearly it failed at that point. But in all other respects, every other strike, it's broken the tips off, but it's gone, hasn't penetrated. The Bever, again, 3 strikes on it, 4 strikes.
4. Yep, 4.
I suspect the early one by Joe would have been problematic. Brigandine, not defeated importantly in any way during any of these trials. The arms, they have survived all of it, with the exception of the gauntlets where we've got an arrow straight through. Where it comes onto the mail, either 1 or 2 sides of the mail are penetrated by the arrows at any of the distances. So again, but as a secondary defence, perhaps you'd expect that. And of course we come to the legs. They've chosen to not wear armour on the legs, and it was a bad choice.
But you see the essential question in action here. the armor's working overtime to foil the vast majority of those shots. The ones that kill are the ones that go in the gaps. The armor is good. The weapon is good. That's the reality. He's better for having worn the gear than not wearing it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But Will, I really want to hear from you. What are your thoughts on the arrowheads?
When you look at the arrowheads on the floor here, they're almost all in one piece.
Yeah.
They're imparting all of their energy. The hardened steel is obviously cutting. They're biting at all kinds of crazy angles. These ones here, for example, and the helmets are good examples. It all makes sense. They're cheap, they're quick, and they work really, really well.
They work really well. I think by biting hard into the steel as well, they are allowing the possibility of penetration.
Yep.
Whereas the Type 9s, which were glancing off, you've lost any possibility of penetration at that point.
Yeah. So I think really now we're starting to look at what the English armies were probably using. Type 9s and the Type 16s appear to be doing roughly the same job when it comes to mail and textile armour. The arrows are lighter, but they're still doing the same thing as this big, heavy, harder to shoot arrow. And I think that's what we need to be taking away from this.
Toby?
Yeah, for me, it's really all about the brigandine. You know, we'd gotten very used to shooting at these big, solid breastplates in our previous work. You could be forgiven for thinking this is not going to work as well. And yet, it's turned everything. There's no fatal wound through the brigandine. So yes, he's been hurt. He's been shot in the arm. He's been shot in the leg. All those are potentially survivable. The brigandine has denied the archers the primary organs. They can't shoot through the lungs, they can't shoot them through the heart, and taking all of that out of the equation is a really significant thing. You're much better to have that. It's cheaper, they're mass produced, they're proliferating across the whole spectrum of a medieval army. The brigandine has really proved itself, and I'm very happy about that.
I've been very impressed by that. And Joe, as an archer, what was your take on all of this?
Yeah, so as the archer, they're far more impressive arrowhead for shooting against armour than the softer Type 9s. These definitely grip on most of the angles. It gives you a slightly lighter arrow, which is nicer to shoot. It will shoot further, so it gives you more options on what you can do with your bow.
And more
really.
people can shoot them, can't they, as well? If you've got
Yeah.
a lighter bow, you can shoot
Yep.
a long way.
As we showed today, we've got bows of 120 pounds, can still shoot those arrows, and they can go all the way up to the biggest bows available. So for mass shooting, they're perfect. If I had the choice out of the two, I'd definitely go with those.
So altogether, it's been a fantastic result for us and a fantastically interesting day. But I'd also like to thank all of the backers who made this possible. So it's been fantastically interesting for us and hopefully fantastically interesting for you guys too. But be proud of it because you made this. But I'd also like to thank the archers because again, it would not have been possible without them. So to all of you, backers and archers out there, thank you very much on behalf of Arrows vs Armour 3. So that's it. It's a goodbye. But before we go, we're going to call the archers in to come and have a look at their handiwork. So guys, come on down.
That's mine, that. I shot that one. Someone's hit the ones over here, haven't they?
Got the two on the top. Two separate.
Hit here and glanced off and disappeared over that hedge. Yeah.
That was your chance. This one there.
One in the hand, but I was aiming for that. I was actually. Honestly. I wanted to get one in the hand.
Time shooting the
Yeah.